Record. You could take your mask off. I'll keep mine on.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
All right. Hello, my name is Woodrow Starr. What I'm going to be teaching today or going over is just basic leather work, just to start out. What we're going to cover by assembling this, it's called a top-notch billfold. You get from Tandy. It's a kit. It has all the parts and pieces in it, including the lace as well as the needles or needle, and it also has the instructions in here too, and it has not just how to put it together, but it also has some patterns as far as what you can put on the wallet itself. And it also has how to stitch the different stitch. This is actually one of the main parts we're going to go over. Is this is called a double loop lacing. And then we're also going to we're not going to do these type of designs on there. We're going to use just more of a geometric kind of thing, because the other one involves you have to use a swivel knife and all that stuff. So this being what it is, we're just going to go over just to get a feel for and start with the basic stamping. So what we do first, and because this kind of takes a little bit, you want to go through your kit. You want to make sure you have everything on it. It has a little list here of everything that you're supposed to have. So you just open up your kit and then pull everything out of there. It shows your billfold back. It's called a divider strip. I'll just kind of show you what the parts and how they're going to go together. This will go on the inside. First of all, we'll go over the outside exterior part of the wallet itself. The one side, it's called the outside or the smooth side, and what you'll hear me refer to as the back. It's called it's the fleshier side of the leather. Anyway, so what you do is, everything will be, we'll do our tooling and stuff on the outside, on the smoother side. All the other stuff goes on to the inside of the wallet or the back. And again, so we look through the stuff. You have basically two pockets that will assemble onto the wallet. It'll look like that. And we will use the lacing. Like I said, it's going to be a double loop stitch. And I don't know how well that's going to be able to pick it up, but you have to see. But we'll do that once we get that all put together. What we're going to do first, so yeah, we have everything here. We got the instructions there. Next thing, what we're going to want to do is, normally I would want to use, it's called blue painter's tape, but this is all we have right now. It's just some masking tape. And what I'm going to do here is just going to go over this. If you want, you can just pull up a chair and watch. We'll go over with more stuff for you when I get done here. We've got quite a bit of time. So what I'm going to do is put this masking tape on the flesh side of the side that I'm not going to do the stamping on. And the reason I do that is just to basically maintain the integrity of the leather itself. And I'm going to put this tape on here now. And then we'll talk more about it here in a second. Now, the reason I use blue painter's tape is that it's sticky enough to where it'll hold real well. And I've had pretty good luck with it. But if you want to use something else, you can too. You want to go from edge to edge. Make sure you got it all covered, even though we're not going to be stamping all the way out to the edge. And again, like I said, what I mean by maintaining the integrity of the leather is that as we stamp, okay, now we've got it all on there. I have a tool in my own shop there that I use. It's just basically looks like like a little roller. You just roll over it and it'll smooth this down. So the reason that I do that, again, to explain how to maintain the integrity of the leather, is as you stamp the leather, anytime you hit it with something, it presses the leather down. Now, as with anything, when you press it down, it wants to push the leather out. So if you do it enough times in one spot, it starts to, your leather will start to bow. It'll start to bend like this, and pretty soon you'll just have like a little leather bowl. So what the tape helps do is to prevent as much of that. It doesn't totally prevent it, but it prevents it enough to where it won't get all misshapen. And as you can see in this kit, the holes are already pre-punched, so we don't got to worry about punching holes or trying to mark things out like that. That will be for a different class. Again, like I said, all we're going to do is just basically introducing you to some leather work by putting this billfold together and just doing a basic design on the back. So what we're going to do, normally we would have I use like a spray bottle, and I would just wet it down. But this is I started out doing this as well. You want to use basically what you have. So you would have these little sponges, and what you do is just get it wet. It's called casing the leather. You get just it doesn't got to be soaking wet sponge. But what you do is get water on your sponge, and you go over the whole surface of the leather. Now, the reason you want to do everything, even though you're not going to be doing, like I said, all the way up to the edge, otherwise you'll have water spots. So as it gets wet and it dries, it'll dry evenly the same way that it got wet. And normally, you'll want to go over it a couple of times. You don't want to get it soaking wet, but you'll just go over it just a few thin layers of water at a time. And as you can see, that it gets dark. It gets pretty dark. You just go over it just a few times. You see it'll soak in real good. You'll see it kind of changes color, and then it'll start to get light again. So again, you just go over it.
And does that help you maneuver the leather? Or
now what this does is that when you stamp the leather, when you use the stamps, it helps to put that impression of the stamp better in the leather, as opposed to if it was dry.
Oh, okay.
So you get the water on there, and of course you don't start right away. You just let it soak in. It'll look like it's dry. Basically, you want it to get back to the same color of what it was. It ain't going to be exactly the same color, but that'll just mean that the water is soaking into the leather. And as it goes in deeper, of course, you won't see it on top anymore, so it'll start to get lighter. But your leather will be moist on the inside. So if you feel it, it'll feel a little cool as it starts to soak into the leather. And again, too, you can put on, do it again a couple more times. It ain't gonna hurt it. Again, like I said, though, try to do the whole thing. Otherwise, if you just do one part and it dries, it's gonna look different from the other side. So you want to do the whole part of the leather all the way across. And then you can see that as you put on more water, the darker it gets. Okay, so that should be good. And we're going to let that dry for a second, for a few minutes, maybe not too long. What I'm going to go over now is just the other parts of the wallet. This here is called, these are the backings, or the liner, it's called. This will go on the inside. And these are the pockets. And these will all be put together at the same time, when we start to sew the leather, sew them into the wallet. This is called a divider, and you'll see what the purpose of that is here in a little bit. What we have here, what comes with the kit, it's called like some calf lacing or craftsman lace. It's some pretty sturdy stuff. And what you have, it's probably like about, I think it's like 30 seconds or something like that. Maybe even 5/16. But you'll have enough to do the whole wallet that comes with the kit. What you want to do, and I know there's probably like 2 or 3 pieces in here, depending on how much that they, how they package it. I can see right now, I see like 1, 2, 3. There should be a 4th end in here, obviously. But the way that you prepare this, it usually comes with it too. It'll have one side that's a little thinned out, and you have this here little piece of needle. It's called a 2-prong lacing needle, and what you'll see, it kind of comes apart at the end. I don't know if you can see that, and it's got 2 little prongs in there. And what you'll do is you'll put that lace inside that, and then squish it together, and then you can just like gently tap it once it's in there to make sure those little prongs stick into that leather, and then that's the end that you'll use to go in and out of the holes of the leather itself. So let that dry. The basic set of tools that we're going to work with today. I don't have any practice leather with me right now, but what we're going to do, this is just a 6-piece set. There's one stamp here. It's called a cedar. This is just a geometric design, and this is what you call a camouflage tool. This is one of the ones that we will be using. This one is called a veiner, and this is a background tool. And as the name suggests, it's just like when you have a design and you need to like fill in around it, this just puts in that design all the way around it, and it kind of fills it in as a background. And then the last one here is the main one that we're going to use, is called a basket stamp. This is what we're going to do over through the whole thing. And what we also have here is a stamp set. This is a number set as well as an alphabet set. I'll go over this too. I'll do a little bit just to give you an idea of what it's going to look like. See if this is, it's getting there. And as you can see, it starts to come back to its original color. Some of the parts where it's still soaking in, it's a little darker. We'll let that soak in a little bit more. Anyways, so what we're going to do, there's all kinds of different designs and different patterns you can make. The one I'm going to put in here is I'm going to stamp my last name into here, and then put the basket stamp around it, and that'll make more sense here when I start to show you. What we have here is this one we use is called a granite slab. As you can see, these plastic tables don't, there's not enough force behind them. What this gives you is basically like an anvil. So as we're stamping on the leather itself, it gives it a little bit better of a background to stamp this, and it'll bring out that stamp a little bit better. So we'll let that, it's still drying. The other thing that we're going to use, this is called a divider. It's basically, it looks like like what we used in grade school, called a compass. You can make it wider or smaller, depending on what you need it for. What we're going to use this for today is just basically to draw a border around what we're going to be stamping. So as you can see the holes. This is where the lacing is going to happen here. So this is part's going to be lace. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a border inside of that lacing pattern where we're going to do our stamping. So you usually want it like, I don't know, this is, depending on how far away from the edge you are. If you want to look at it like this, what you can do is just to get a better idea. When you eyeball it and you look at it, it's like the stitching line is going to be like the halfway point of how wide these are. So you look at it and it looks a little too wide right there. And then what this will do. Okay, so I got it set up just right. Now what I'm going to do is you just basically have to eyeball it, but you don't want to go over the edge. You just want to go so far to where it's going to meet up with the next one. So I'm going to demonstrate that right now. And what you're going to want to do, you place one side on the outside edge of the leather, and you press down with the other the tip into the wet leather, and then you just pull it across it, keeping that flush against that edge. Okay, and it creates a little line in there. Now this is another reason that we have the leather is wet. It'll help put that little line in there a little deeper, and then you'll go from the other side. And again, we're going to go down the edge, the straight edge of the leather, and then we'll do this again, and then one more time down the long side. All right. So you can see we created a little border around there. Now, what we're going to do is the first thing we're going to do is, since I said I want to put my name on this, we're going to use the letter stamp. Now, just keeping in mind, like how the wallet's going to sit after it's put together and it's closed. You want to make sure, if you want it to look like this, you can measure it up, like how far across. You can go at an angle, whatever you want. I mean, you can even have it go all the way across if you want. It's just that, with this space in here where it bends, it'll try to deform the letters, and it'll smash them up and stuff. So typically you just want to have your designs on either side. I mean, like the border I made here too, I mean, you didn't even have to do that all the way. You could have just went as far and just made like two squares, two little small areas on each side. So I just prefer to have the whole thing done like this. So what I'm going to do here now is, this is where we had the granite slab comes into place. You just put it on top of there, and in the kit it has what they call the arm, and then the letters. Now my name's going to fit on here because my last name is Star. So, and as you look at these letters, you'll see on the side that isn't, on the side that the arm goes into, there's just a little mark, or like there's an S right there. So that's going to be the bottom part. So looking at that, I want that facing me, so the S is going to be sitting correctly inside the leather. Okay, so then we start from here. I can go, I'll just do so far from here. And you'll hold it still, and then you'll take your mallet or your maul. So either way, one's a little heavier than the other, just depending on what you like. I try to use the heavier one with the letters and the numbers. And what you do is you just kind of hold it and then just tap it in there. And then you can pull it off and take a look. And you'll see the letter there. And as you can see, it's a little darker on one side. So that means it wasn't like evenly hit on this side. So what I'll do is I'll put that back together, and you can just kind of put it back in there, and you can feel it drop back into where you had it. And then you just have to I'm gonna exaggerate this, but you just either tilt it this way or that way. Since it's up in this corner, I'm gonna tilt it towards that corner where I think it needs to be a little more deeper. You can see it got a little darker there now. So, but again, in the upper corner there, as always, it'll show up. So again, you can see it got a little bit darker all the way around. So now they have this special tool that's set up where it gets wider and smaller, and you put it on there and you can put your letters in and help keep them straight. Old school way is to put the letter in there, as long as it isn't the same letter that you're using. Put that in there where your first one was at, and then you take your second one and you line it up right next to it. So it'll be square, and then same thing. There you go. All right, so I'm going to finish this. I'll put this back together. And as you go along, you'll start to see you can see that the table still jumps a little bit, but it would be, but having this granite slab still makes it a lot easier than if you didn't have it at all. Again, you can see I didn't do it as dark. Yeah, I was be sitting on the floor like when we first started. Okay. Now, these letters, as well as these numbers, they come in different sizes, all the way up to an inch. I think they probably sell them larger, but I know in Tandy it'll go anywhere from 3/8 or actually a quarter up to an inch. Okay. So now, there we go. So there, now you see we got that name in there. Now the reason I did that first is because I got to work the basket stamp around that. And it's usually a lot easier to have like something to work your way around. So now what I'm going to do is to show you how to do the basket stamp. Now what you're going to want to use, and since we're only working inside that area that we drew in there, get a ruler or a flat surface with the cork backside. And what that'll do is when you use it, it'll keep it from sliding around on the leather. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a diagonal line in here. Basically, it's like what they call a guideline. And there's no certain angle it has to be at, so don't let the protractor fool you. It doesn't have to be a 45 or anything like that. As long as it's a straight line, you're going from one edge to the other edge, and it doesn't got to be that deep either. Just like, again, it's a guideline, so just barely any pressure. You again, if you feel it go into one side across to the other side. I don't know if you can see that or not, but now there's a little scratch line in there. And that's where I'm going to start with now. Now what we're going to use is the basket stamp first. We're gonna put that in here, put that design in here first, and then we'll go around the edge with the camouflage stamp. So what I like to do is to start from either end. I mean, like either side of this line you can start on, but what you're going to do is initially we're going to go along this line. So that means we're going to go back and forth like this. I'll put this away so it's sitting in the picture here. So I usually like to start in the middle. And you could, as you can see on this basket stamp, it's got on the ends these 4 like little arms, I like to call them. There's 4, and what you want to do, you want to line up on that line. You're going to want to line up one side inside that line that you just scratched into the leather. So what you do is you can kind of feel it too. It drops right in there, and holding it as still as you can. Use your mallet. I'll use the yellow one just to show you what we can use that. And I like to rock it back and forth and then side to side. And it gives you this little design on there. Now what we're going to do to go on from here is we're going to go to the other side of the line, and we're going to overlap those little arms on there. So we'll just drop one of those little lines, those arms, line that up, and then line up the other arm inside that line that we scratched before. So you get something that looks like that. And as you can see, those 2 arms overlap right there. So we're going to do one on this side now. Again, overlapping the arm, and then putting the other arm inside that line. Okay. So again, now we go back to the other side.
So basically you're just kind of going.
Yeah, like I said before, we're going back and forth on the line. And now I'm going to use the maul to show you that you can use either one. But because this one's a little heavier, I don't have to hit it as many times. So, you can use that. And now we're going to fill it in on this line. We're going to go back and forth. And I have to put it down because I have to still line it up. And hold it. Line it up again.
Is there like bigger stencils or bigger? What's your
stamps?
Yeah, stamps. There you
Yeah,
go.
these here basket stamps come in different sizes, as well as the camouflage. These come in different styles as well. Some of them will have lines in them. Some of them will have like petals, like flower petals, or it'll look like a flower petal once you get done stamping with it.
What about
all of these other ones, they come in different sizes, like this veiner. This veiner will have sometimes, like you can see, there's like a little, one side's like a scalloped ridge. Sometimes they'll come with just smooth. It's not that little ridge. So, and then some of them won't. This one has lines that go back and forth. Some of them won't have it. It'll be just smooth. And the reason it's called a veiner is like when we start to do this type of stamping, what this veiner does is it creates like these veins on those leaves and stems of their flowers. So that's why it's called a veiner. The reason this is called a camouflage stamp is as we go around the edge, you'll start to see when I do the basket stamp, I might go over or a little too close to the edge. And what this does, it'll create a really pretty border, as well as kind of cover up any slights that I might have in there. And again, these are just geometrics. This is just a geometric. I don't know if this one comes in any different sizes other than this one, but there's all different kinds out there. I gave a sheet to Jen. She'll share with you. Again, the background, I've only seen this type of background in one size, but they do come in different styles in different sizes, like just straight lines, or it would be like a rectangle with like diamonds or just lines on them. There's just different kinds. And this is called a cedar, because again, in this is called like a Sheridan or a floral design. It's inside this flower. In the middle of it, like a flower, there's like little seeds inside the petals. And what this will do, it'll go through and it'll start to make those designs in there. So that's why that's called a cedar. But we're not using those today. We're just going through the basket stamp part of this, which is just to get you used to using a stamp, and then using either a mallet or a mallet or a maul, and to get the hang of this. And that's something that we'll go over in another class. There's the different types of stamps that we're going to be using. You want to make sure you're in a well lit area that you can see where your stamp is sitting. Your hand will get sore if you're not used to doing this. As we get so as we fill up more and make this line disappear with this basket stamp, you won't be able to see that line anymore. When you get closer to the edge, what we're going to want to do here is now, because we don't want to go over this border that we drew with the divider. What we're going to want to do is when we get to the edge, just to create like a faded look, we will tilt the basket stamp in a direction that won't cross that line. So we if I had it flat, it would cross that line. So what I want to do is I want to tilt it back towards me and then back to my left, just a little bit. But you still want to make sure it's lined up on those lines. And what that'll do, and then you can just barely tap it like that. And then give enough from that one side. As you can see, it gives it just like a faded look. And I'll show you once we start going through the edges here, what it starts to look like with the camouflage. It'll cover that up, and it won't look as noticeable. So now that we got the line, now we can either go this way or this way with it. I'm going to go this way since my name is over here, and just to show you what it's going to look like. Now, on the ends of these, you're not going to have that line. I'm actually going to do this end over here first, just to complete it on this side. That one looks a little bit better. You can see how it didn't cross that line. It's kind of like a little faded one. That's because I tilted it back and to the left or to the right a little bit. So now what we're going to do is taking that basket stamp. Now you can see you have like you still got like pretty much a straight line that you can follow. You just got to line it up in those other arms that you're going to overlap on. And then you're just going to keep going. Now what you're going to want to do, if you can, it'll take some practice. It definitely takes a lot of practice. But this is one of those things that the more you practice, the better you get. You never get to a certain point and then you're like, oh, I'm done now. But it's one of those things. The more you do, the better you get. You never reach a certain level of just like being done.
How the women wear the leather belts and so forth, dancing belts? How do you go about getting bigger stamps, or do you use the smaller stamps to make the bigger, say a flower or whatever? Or
Yeah, that'd be covered in another class.
okay.
I'm kind of moving along a little bit. I made this closer to the letters, but what we're gonna do is that I wanted to show you how to go around those letters. As you start to see, it starts to look more and more like a basket weave, where like it goes up and down and it goes underneath. And as you go along, you'll start to see, when we put when we get it all done, especially when we get done around the letters, and when we get the camouflage stamping done, you'll start to see that, it'll still look a little unfinished. And once we start putting on what they call this gel antique, it'll start to bring out those cuts. It'll start to bring out all the cuts that these letter stamps made, as well as this basket stamp made. It will bring that out and give it a little more depth, as well as the camouflage as it goes around. And then once you're done with that, what you'll look at is covering it, or doing like a finish to it. And then what that's called, that Tandy sells, it's called a super sheen. Vibings also has some stuff. Get them out of here. Anyways, these are called Pro Resist. Again, it's the same thing. What this is going to do, and what I'll demonstrate again later, is in another class, is to show you how this works along with this. It's like some people call it a stain, but it's actually a gel antique or antiquing. This shade is called a briar brown. This one is just like a coating. What this will do, not only will it provide a nice looking finish to it, but if you put this on, say if you do it just like over the numbers or the letters over a certain spot, and then you put the gel antique on it, again, as the name implied, resist, it provides that resistant to your leather, where it won't hold this. So if I put this just over the letters and I put the gel antique over it, the letters will stand out without the gel antique. There'll be some, but not as much. It'll definitely won't be as much. And it just gives a different design. And again, like I said, there's just unlimited ways of different things as you start to work with. The way I'm going to do this one today is I'm going to take the super sheen. It's the same thing as the other. I'm going to just put it around on the outside of that border of like where we're going to lace. I'm just going to apply that, and then just let that dry, the super sheen. And once I get this all done, stamped, and then I'll use the gel antique with the sponge. It's the wet one I used. You just apply it to your sponge, and then just liberally you apply it to the whole area, even over the edges where you put the super sheen, and just get over and over it. And then what you'll do is you'll take paper towel, and then you'll see it. It'll just be like a glob, and then you just start to wipe it off. And once you do that, you'll start to see how that resist starts to work around the edges. It'll be a totally different shade, and then the inside will start to look a lot more defined. And then and then that's pretty much it as far as like when you're putting that together. When you're finishing this up. Also, be very careful with your hands. If you're have some, as you're handling things, that had some gel antique on it, so my fingerprints are on this leather now. But again, it's just an example. If it was something I was planning to give as a present or sell or anything like that, I'd probably have to start over. But just as a again, what not to do. I'll go over more. I'll finish this stamping, and then once we get that done, again, what we'll do here, uh, this lacing technique that I wanted to show you. Oh shoot, I didn't bring my. What you want to do is when you put your lace together on your needle, you want to thin this out. Take this all apart. How much is in one piece? Take your longest piece that you're going to use. I don't know how different these lengths are.
Holy.
Okay, there's the shorter one. So I'm going to put the shorter one away. And then what you do, you take the one end, and you can see this is already a little bit, they call it skiving, but it's been thinned away. And the way that it has been thinned away is that, again, when you look at this lace, there's a smooth side and a rough side. You would put the smooth side down with the rough side facing up, and then you would take your knife or sharp edge and just slightly gradually go down and make it thin, make it thinner. And once you got that done, you can kind of make a little point, just a gradual point. Actually, I have a scissors. You can take a scissors. You don't want it too wide of a point, but you start to see that. See how it's kind of like a little bit of a point now. Now what you do is you take that needle I showed you earlier, and you just pry it open. It might be a little stuck, so you have to work at it, but don't pull it too hard, otherwise you'll split it and break it in half. Just pull it open a little bit, and what you're going to do is, using your fingers, is to hold that open. And what you're going to do is you're going to put the smooth side down onto those prongs and line it up inside there. And then push it together. Now what you want to do too is lay it down flat and just slightly tap it. And then you'll start to see those little prongs come through there. And then what you'll do, as you start to work your way around, depending on where this starts, you'll probably want to start putting this with this divider first. I'm not going to take this tape off. I'm going to finish basket stamping this. But you'll start on one side, and you'll basically work your way around. The instructions have all that on how to do that, what side to go with first. You'll, again, like I said, you'll put that piece on first. Let's see what this is, how this is going to explain it to you. I think what this is going to tell you is you will do the inside part first. As you can see that the lining, the way it's set up, there's a little square here, a little spot that's cut out. That's going to be, I'll refer to as the bottom. And then what you'll do is you'll put these together, the pockets. Now, obviously you can't hold them all together, so you'll start with one side, but you'll put these insides together like this. And what you're going to do is with that little space on the bottom, you will stitch across the top of this, leaving, it's going to say to start in like either the second or the third hole. So once we start putting it together on the back of that wallet, there'll be a space that'll be able, you'll be able to stitch into the rest of it. But we'll go across the top of this. And again, it's a pretty basic stitch, this double loop. Once you start, when you first start it, it's gonna seem really difficult. But the way that you're going to want to look at it, I think how they do it on here is they have, it's using a whip stitch. Okay, a whip stitch is just a basic, you just go around it. You just go in through one hole. And then back through. Just keeping an eye on your, it's flat. So if it starts to twist, you'll be able to straighten it out, and then you'll just go around the edge of it like that. That's what your a whip stitch will look like. Okay. Now, the part that we're going to go around on the outside, again, like I said, it's called a double loop stitch or lace. What that looks like or will look like, there's just a kind of like a different way that you put this together. Let me pull my hand out of here first. Start, you're always going to want to leave like about 3/4 to an inch on the end. Once you put your needle through and you go around, I know this is going to be really hard to show on this camera. I don't know if anyone can see this very well. There's some videos on that sheet that I gave to Jen. Just look it up, like, especially on the Tandy YouTube channel, it'll show you how to do a double loop, it's called. A double loop stitch or double loop lacing. But anyway, so once you put that through there, and then you'll put it over, and then you'll pull that tight over that end. Okay. So what you'll do is you'll pull that through, and you can see that that end is right there. And then what you'll do is you'll just pull that over that, and then you'll just lace that into or stitch that into the rest of your lace. Okay. And then what you'll do with this part now, you'll take your needle and you'll go back under that cross that you just made and pull it through. It's going to be a little awkward. Yeah, it's been a while since I did this too. But just mind your room. what you have in your area. You're not gonna be pulling anything around, like I just knocked that mallet over. But once you start doing it and get the hang of it, your hands will be pretty sore for a little while.
How long does it usually take you to finish one?
You can do this whole thing in about a couple hours, depending on the extent of your stamping. Because what you're gonna want to do is to let it dry. You got to let it dry in between steps, especially after you did the stamping. To get a good stamp in there, it's going to have to be, not soaking wet, like I said before, but it's got to be fairly wet through the whole process of stamping. So like right now, it's drying out pretty good now, so I might have to go over it again with some water. And then here you start to look at how I went over this. And again, like I said, you want to keep this end underneath everything that you're pulling over the leather. And once you go through that X over that first stitch, and then you pull it back through, and then keeping your lace flat to avoid any twists in it, as flat as you can. You put it back through the next hole. Put it through. And what this is going to do, this is going to create another cross where the leather crosses over. And you'll see that. And then what you'll do then is you'll take your needle and go underneath where those two pieces of lace is crossed. You'll go underneath that, come out the other side. And then once you get it through there, you'll just go back, you'll loop that over, and then you'll go into the next hole and then pull that through. And then you start over. Again, this is really hard to show on the camera.
We have about
So, and that's basically what you'll do as you go around the edge of it and get it all put together. I'm just going to pull it apart right now. I'm going to have to put this all back together on the other side. Okay, so I know I went through that pretty quick. I'm not used to this whole having to do thing on Zoom. Is there any questions? Anybody got any questions?
there were just one. I got a message of asking. What's okay? What is the price on a project?
The what?
What's the price on a project? So it must be
Price of like a kit?
yeah, kit and probably everything, everything that you have right there.
This here kit itself probably costs like, I want to say $15. That has all the parts and pieces in it. And then again, depending on what you want to do, there's actually a basic stamping kit. I think it's like $30. It comes with all the stamps as well as a little tool rack, a little swivel knife. This here costs like $10. This divider, this here mallet or this maul, I think this costs like $30. It's actually a pretty good price for this There are a lot more expensive ones. This here mallet by itself is probably 15. Each one of these kits, I think this is about 15. The slab is like 12, I think. The all is like $4 to $7. Yeah, I mean, it just depends, and it's going to depend on where you buy it from too. If you're getting this right from Tandy, there'll be different prices. They also have certain kinds of discounts that people can use, like veterans. They have veterans discount there these days. Some of the places that I do my shopping at online, they have because I work at the hospital. They have what they call first responders or health staff, just because of the pandemic. They give a lot of discounts to people like that too. So yeah. Again, on that sheet that I gave to Jen, if you look at those, I have it listed as where you can look for supplies. Now, that's not the only places. That's just the main places where I shop from, and I get a lot of different things from as far as what I need. Even, one place I get leather, the other place I get needles, the other place I'll get tools or stamps, and just, there's some places like the saying goes, you get what you pay for. So be careful. I know on Amazon's really good for that. They have a lot of cheap price stuff, but it's cheap for a reason. So when you buy something, make sure you look at the reviews of that whatever it is that you're thinking of buying. Again, they actually sell whole kits at Tandy that has the mallet, stamps, the little pieces of thing. They start like at $60 up to 150, and yeah, just gotta look.
Okay. Thank you, Woody. And we are done.
All right.